Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Battles of the American Civil War, which hosts Bang and Dang, and the moment has finally arrived that we've been listening to Grant work his way to finally getting to the city of Vicksburg. He's been trying for 2 years. I mean, failed like 2 or 3 times, but we've seen him slowly go through city by city, getting his way up to Vicksburg, as we see here, and now he's surrounded the city. We're gonna have a May, June, July, almost a month and a half long siege before he finally takes the city. So
2 major victories on the 4th of July.
Nope. Gettysburg, 3rd.
3rd to the 6th, or 1st to 3rd, yeah. It's crazy. And Vicksburg set up Gettysburg, so Vicksburg's actually more important.
Dude, imagine the damn the high that the nation was on when those 2 battles, those 2 days. Holy shit.
And it was the 4th of July, too. Oh, jeez, what the hell party.
All right. Lincoln probably was like, yep, I'm getting reelected.
Block parties.
Right. Black parties, too. Siege of Vicksburg, May 18th through July 4th, 1863. Not a lot, really. I mean, the battle wasn't that much. Not really much happened. It was just it took that long to get into the city, I guess. But this probably won't be too long. It was the final major military action in the Vicksburg campaign. A series of maneuvers. Ulysses S. Grant and his Army of the Tennessee crossed the Mississippi River and drove the Confederate Army of the Mississippi, led by Pemberton, into the defensive line surrounding the fortress city of Vicksburg, as we seen the last 3 or 4 episodes. After crossing the Mississippi south of Vicksburg at Bruinsburg and driving northeast, Grant won battles at Port Gibson, Raymond, captured Jackson, and which is the Mississippi state capital, on May 14th, forcing Pemberton to withdraw westward. Attempts to stop Union advance at Champion Hill and Big Black River Bridge were unsuccessful. Pemberton knew that the Corps under Major General William T. Sherman was preparing to flank him from the north, and he said, I gotta withdraw, or I'm gonna be outflanked, and then I'll really be fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, the South wasn't doing too hot right about now. Pemberton burned bridges over the Big Black River, devastated the countryside as it retreated to the well-fortified city of Vicksburg. Well, was it really well-fortified?
Okay.
The Confederates evacuated Haynes Bluff, which was subsequently occupied by Scheuermann's cavalry on the 19th of May. Union steamboats no longer had to run the guns of Vicksburg, now being able to dock by the dozens up the Yazoo River.
Dozens up the Yazoo.
Grant could now receive supplies more directly than by the previous route, which ran through Louisiana, over the river crossing at Grand Gulf and Bruinsburg. Then he went back up north.
Yes, sir.
Over half of Pemberton's army had been lost in the 2 preceding battles. And many in Vicksburg expected General Joseph E. Johnston in command of Confederate Department of the West. They wanted him to relieve the city, which never did, guys.
I think he's like, yeah, I think we lost it.
Right. Large numbers of Union troops were on the march to invest the city. Invest it? Or infest?
Pretty much means to surround it and siege it.
They repaired the bridges as they went over the Big Black River, and they crossed on the 18th of May, 1863.
Johnson sent a note to his general Pemberton asking him to sacrifice the city and save his troops, something Pemberton would not do. So Johnson's like, dude, just get out of there, save your guys. And Pemberton's like, no.
Right.
We fought for Vicksburg. They've tried to take us 3 or 4 times already.
We got it.
Pemberton, a northerner.
Yeah, and Johnson should have been like, yeah, we also had all those other cities that we just lost.
Right. So can't you see it's over, Pemberton?
Come on.
Jeez. Well, Pemberton, who was a northerner by birth, was probably influenced by his fear of public condemnation if he abandoned Vicksburg. That's the thing. They're always afraid of what the public's going to say.
Right.
Don't care if I lose
especially a northerner.
5,000 guys.
Especially a northerner.
Right.
You know, Yankee can't handle this.
Mm-hmm. Pemberton, trying to please Jefferson Davis, who insisted that Vicksburg and Port Hudson must be held, and to please Johnson, who thought both places worthless militarily, had been caught in the middle, a victim of convoluted command system and his own indecisiveness. Yeah, so he's trying to prove Johnson wrong that these are, and Davis, too dispirited to think clearly, he chose to back his bedraggled army into Vicksburg rather than evacuate the city and head north where he might have escaped to campaign again.
Yes.
When he chose to take his army into Vicksburg, Pemberton sealed the fates of his troops and the city he had been determined to defend. So says Michael B. Ballard from the novel Vicksburg.
Fantastic. Well, as the Union forces approached Vicksburg, Pemberton could put only 18,500 troops in his lines.
Damn.
Grant had over 35,000, with more on the way, always, and probably killing them in artillery.
Right.
However,
Well, yeah, remember Pemberton in the last few days, what did he lose? Like, it was like over 50 artillery pieces.
ridiculous. However, Pemberton had the advantage of terrain and fortifications that made his defense nearly impregnable. Just like Dylan Mulvaney.
Not nearly. 100%.
The defensive line around Vicksburg ran for approximately 6.5 miles.
Damn.
Based on terrain of varying elevations that included hills, knobs with steep slopes, which would require an attacker to ascend under fire.
Nah, you can't do that.
Ooh, if you guys ever watch Glory.
Well, if you guys ever watch anything that we've,
Right.
or listened to anything we've had a hill on.
The perimeter included many gun pits, forts, trenches, redoubts, and lunettes. The major fortifications of the line included Fort Hill on a high bluff north of the city, Stockade Redon, dominating the approach to the city on the Graveyard Road from the northeast, the 3rd Louisiana Redon, the Redoubt, the Railroad Redoubt, protecting the gap for the railroad line entering the city, the Square Fort, which is Fort Garrett, a salient along the Halls Ferry Road, and the South Fort. And look at that, that nice and
For the Union, we already pretty much know who we got here. Ulysses S. Grant, his Army of the Tennessee, brought 5 corps to the siege. The 9th Corps under Major General John Parke, the 13th Corps under Major General John McClernand, 15th Corps under Major William General C. Sherman, the 16th Corps, which was a detachment of the 16th Corps under Major General Cadwalader C. Washburn, and the 17th Corps under Major General James B. McPherson. And you already know the Confederates don't really bring that much. Under Pemberton, he had the Army of Mississippi, which was inside the Vicksburg line, obviously consisting of 4 divisions under Major Generals Carter L. Stevenson, John H. Forney, Martin L. Smith, and John S. Bowen. A bunch of nobodies, dude.
Who? Except for Bowen.
Yeah. I think Stevenson might have did a couple things. But
Grant wanted to overwhelm the Confederates before they could fully organize their defenses. And ordered an assault against the Stockade Redon for the 19th of May. He said, tomorrow, we take Stockade. Troops from Sherman's Corps had a difficult time approaching the position under rifle and artillery fire from the 36th Mississippi Infantry. Brigadier General Lewis A. Bear, his brigade, was the 36th Mississippi Infantry. Anyway, they had to negotiate a steep ravine protected by abatis and across a 6-foot deep, 8-foot wide ditch before attacking the 17-foot high hill of the Redon.
or the walls.
Right, the walls of the Redon, sorry, not hill.
17 feet high. Holy shit.
Dang, the first attempt was easily repulsed. Grant ordered artillery bombardment to soften defenses, and at about 2 p.m., Sherman's division under Major General Francis P. Blair tried once again. But only a small number of men were able to advance even as far as the ditch below the Redon. The assault collapsed in an exchange of rifle fire and flour. You got some rifle flour? Can we borrow some rifle flour? The assault collapsed in an exchange of rifle fire and hand grenades lobbing back and forth.
All right. The failed Union assaults of May 19th damaged troop morale, deflating the confidence soldiers had felt after their string of victories across Mississippi. I know they're probably like, dude, once again?
All right.
They were also costly, with 157 killed, 777 wounded, and 8 missing, versus Confederate casualties of only 8 killed and 62 wounded.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Confederates, assumed to be demoralized, had regained their fighting edge. You don't want that. Grant planned another assault for May 22nd, but this time with greater care. His troops would first reconnoiter thoroughly and soften up the defenses with artillery and naval gunfire. The lead units were supplied with ladders to ascend the fortification walls. That's a good idea. Grant did not want a long siege, though, and this attack was to be by the entire army across a wide front.
Damn.
Despite their bloody repulse on the May 19th, Union troops were in high spirits, now well fed with provisions they had foraged.
Hey.
On seeing Grant pass by, a soldier commented, "Hardtack!" Soon all troops in the vicinity were yelling, "Hardtack! Hardtack!"
Heart attack. Oh, no.
It's like a biscuit.
Yeah.
The Union served hardtack, beans, and coffee the night of May 21st. Nice. Everyone expected that Vicksburg would fall the next day. Oh, not so fast.
Right. They will. Not tomorrow.
Nope.
Union forces bombarded the city all night. from 220 artillery pieces and with naval gunfire from Rear Admiral David D. Porter's fleet in the river. While causing little property damage, they damaged Confederate civilian morale.
I bet they did.
The civilians, they're like, hey, man, and you're not fighting us somewhere. On the morning of 22nd May, the defenders were bombarded again for 4 hours before the Union attacked once more along a 3-mile front at 10 a.m. Sherman attacked once again down the Graveyard Road with 150 volunteers, nicknamed the Forlorn Hope Detachment, leading the way with ladders and planks, followed by divisions of Blair and Brigadier General James Tuttle, where they arranged in a long column of regiments. They hoped to achieve a breakthrough by concentrating their mass on a narrow front. They were driven back into the face of heavy rifle fire. Blair's brigades under Colonels Giles A. Smith and T. Kilby Smith made it as far as a ridge about 100 yards from the Greens Redan, the southern edge of the stockade Redan, from where they poured heavy fire into the Confederate position. But to no avail. Tuttle's division, waiting its time to advance, did not have an opportunity to move forward.
And Sherman's far right, the division of Brigadier General Frederick Steele spent the morning attempting to get in position through a ravine of the Mint Spring Bayou. McPherson's corps was assigned to attack the center along the Jackson Road. On their right flank, the brigade of Brigadier General Thomas E.G. Ransom advanced to within 100 yards of the Confederate line, but halted to avoid dangerous flanking fire from Green's Redan.
Okay.
On McPherson's left flank, the division of Major General John A. Logan was assigned to assault the 3rd Louisiana Redan and the Great Redoubt. The brigade of Brigadier General John E. Smith made it as far as the slope of the Redan, but huddled there, dodging grenades until dark when they were recalled. They're like, you guys ain't going to do nothing there.
Right.
Brigadier General John D. Stevenson's brigade advanced in 2 columns against the Redoubt, but their attack also failed when they found their ladders were too short to scale the fortification.
I doubt they had 7-foot ladders, 17-foot ladders.
Right.
Jeez.
They might have.
Maybe.
Brigadier General Isaac, you think they would have had them specifically built?
Right.
Did they have collapsibles?
Maybe.
Brigadier General Isaac F. Quinby's division advanced a few hundred yards but halted for hours while its generals engaged in confused discussions.
Oh, okay.
So,
Look at that.
yeah.
Confused discussions.
They're like, it'd be like if you're playing The Sims, you see them gather around, there's like question marks and a little bubble above their head.
Right. Jeez. On the Union left, McClernand's corps moved along the Baldwin's Ferry Road and astride the Southern Railroad of Mississippi. Division of the Brigadier General Eugene A. Carr, he was assigned to capture the Railroad Redoubt and the 2nd Texas Lunette. The division of Brigadier General Peter Osterhaus was assigned to Square Fort. Carr's men achieved a small breakthrough at the 2nd Texas Lunette and requested reinforcements. By 11 a.m., it was clear that a breakthrough was not forthcoming and that the advances by Sherman and McPherson were failures. I mean, I guess they've both been doing decent. They're no McClernand's. McClernand guy, he's no good.
Right? McClernand's not bad. It's McClellan you're thinking of.
Oh, McClernand. It's all the same, right?
Yeah.
Just then, Ulysses S. Grant received a message from McClernand, which it stated that he was heavily engaged. The Confederates were being reinforced, and he requested a diversion on his right from McPherson's corps. Grant initially refused the request. He's like, nah. He told McClernand to use his own reserve forces for assistance.
All right. You guys got reserves.
Grant was mistakenly under the impression that McClernand had been lightly engaged and McPherson heavily, although the reverse was true.
He just told you he was heavily engaged, Grant. Come on. McClernand followed up with a message that was partially misleading, implying that he had captured 2 forts. The stars and stripes are flying over them, quote unquote, and that another push along the line would achieve victory for the Union Army. In fact, more than a dozen members of the 22nd Iowa Infantry Regiment had secured a tenuous foothold in a portion of the fortification known as the Railroad Redoubt and forced Confederate defenders back from that point, though the low ends could not advance further.
Right.
So we didn't get anything.
Right.
Although Grant once again demurred, he showed the dispatch to Sherman, who ordered his own corps to advance again.
Okay.
Grant, reconsidering, then ordered McPherson to send Quinby's division to aid McClernand.
Right. I mean, what the hell's going on here, right? Jeez. As our line of battle started, and before our yell had died upon the air, the Confederate fortifications in our front were completely crowded with the enemy, who with an answering cry of defiance poured into our ranks, one continuous fire of musketry, and the forts and the batteries in our front and both sides were pouring into our line. an unseasoned fire of shot and shell, with the fearful results as the storm of fire sent us, intermixed with the bursting shells and the devilish rebel yell. I could compare it to nothing but one of the Dante's pictures of hell, as something too fearful to describe. Daniel A. Ramsdale, Ransom's Bridge.
Our brigade.
Daniel A. Ramsdale's Ransom Brigade.
Sherman ordered 2 more assaults at 2:15 p.m. Guile, Smith, and Ransom moved out and repulsed immediately. 3 p.m., Tuttle's division suffered so many casualties in their aborted advance that Sherman told Tuttle, "This is murder. Order these troops back." By this time, Steele's division had finally maneuvered in position on Sherman's right, and at 4 p.m., Steele gave the order to charge against the 26th Louisiana Redoubt. They had no more success than any of Sherman's other assaults.
Wow.
In McPherson's sector, Logan's division made another thrust down the Jackson Road at about 2 p.m., but met with heavy losses, and the attack was called off.
Dang.
McClernand attacked again, reinforced by Quinby's division, but with no success.
No success. Wow.
Union casualties for the day totaled 502 killed, 2,550 wounded,
Dang.
and 147 missing.
Whoa.
About evenly divided across the 3 corps.
Oh, man.
Confederate casualties were not reported directly, but are estimated to have been under 500, of course.
Obviously.
Grant blamed McClernand's misleading dispatches for part of the poor results of the day, storing up another grievance against the political general who had caused him so many aggravations during the campaign.
Man.
Yeah, he don't like McClernand at all.
No. Wow.
Yep, that's what he said.
You son of a... Historian Shelby Foote wrote that Grant did not regret having made the assault.
He said no regrets.
He only regretted that they had failed.
Clearly.
Grant reluctantly settled into a siege.
Yeah, so we gotta fucking hold out. Hey, we're not getting pushed back.
All right.
So we'll just hold out here, man.
Chill.
They're not getting supplies.
Right.
And they're gonna run out of everything soon. So
Damn right.
let's just hold on.
25th of May, Lieutenant Colonel John Rawlins issued special orders number 140 for Grant. Corps commanders will immediately commence the work of reducing the enemy for regular approaches. It is described that no more loss of life shall be sustained in the reduction of Vicksburg and the capture of Garrison. Every advantage will be taken of natural equalities.
Inequality.
Right. Of the ground to gain positions from which to start mines, trenches, or advance batteries. Grant wrote in his memoirs, "I now determined upon a regular siege to outcamp the enemy,
Yep.
as it were, and to incur no more losses." Federal troops began to dig in, constructing elaborate entrenchments, which the soldiers of time referred to as ditches.
Well, that's pretty much what they were.
Right.
These surrounded the city and moved steadily closer to the Confederate fortifications. With their backs against the Mississippi and Union gunboats firing from the river, Confederate soldiers and citizens alike were trapped. Pemberton was determined to hold as few miles of the Mississippi as long as possible, hoping for relief from Johnson or elsewhere. How's he going to get message out?
All right.
A new problem confronted the Confederates, though. The dead and wounded of Grant's army lay in the heat of the Mississippi summer, the odor of the deceased, men and horses foul in the air, the wounded crying for medical help and water.
Jeez.
Grant first refused a request of truce, thinking it a show of weakness.
What?
Finally, he relented, and the Confederates held their fire while the Union recovered their wounded and dead on May 25th.
Jeez.
Soldiers from both sides mingling and trading as if no hostilities existed for the moment.
Dude, can you imagine that?
That's like in the Gods in General.
Right.
There's a Union and a Reb on each side of the river, and there's like, "Hey, I'll give you some of my tobacco. You give me some of your coffee." They're like meet in the middle of the river, and dude takes a couple sips, a couple pokes, and they're like, "All right." I think they actually ended up fighting
Each other.
Yeah.
There's another one where the generals are.
Do you have personal hatred for these guys? I mean, some people might. You know how some of these warheads are. They're like, "Oh, fuck you." Most of these guys are just like, "Hey, man, I got drafted."
Right. Just business, bud. Just business. After this truce, Grant's army began to fill the 12-mile ring around Vicksburg. It soon became clear that even 50,000 Union soldiers would not be able to effect a complete encirclement of the Confederate defenses. Pemberton's outlook on escape was pessimistic, but there were still roads leading south out of Vicksburg unguarded by the Union troops.
Yeah, maybe you want to give them a chance. Just get the hell out of here, dude.
Right. Grant sought help from Major General Henry Halleck, the Union General-in-Chief.
What the hell does this guy do anyways?
Halleck quickly began to shift Union troops in the west to meet Grant's needs. The first of these reinforcements was a 5,000-man division from the Department of Missouri under Major General Francis Huron.
Hey, we ain't heard his name in a while.
Right. Did that on June 11th. Huron's troops, remnants of the Army of the Frontier, were attached to McPherson's corps and took a position on the far south. Next came a 3-division detachment from the 16th Corps, led by Brigadier General Cadwalader C. Washburn. So stupid.
Hell of a name. I guarantee this guy has some thick-ass chops, dude.
Right.
Oh, he didn't. But he had a thick-ass chin beard.
Hell of a T.
There's no go.
Right. Next came a 3-division detachment from the 16th Corps, led by Brigadier General Washburn on the 12th of June, assembled from troops at a nearby post of Corinth, Memphis, and Lagrange. Oh, Corinth, Memphis, and Lagrange, all three of those. Right. The final significant group of reinforcements.
Corinth is in Memphis, man.
Corinth, Memphis, and Lagrange.
Oh, right.
The final significant group of reinforcements was 8,000-man strong 9th Corps from the Department of Ohio, led by Major General John Parke. They arrived on the 14th of June. With the arrival of Parke, Grant had 77,000 men around Vicksburg, compared to what?
I think
20, 18.5?
Say like 15 or something,
right.
18 or something.
Man.
In an effort to cut Grant's supply line, Confederates in Louisiana under Major General John Walker attacked Milliken's Bend up the Mississippi on June 7th. I think we're going to have that. This was largely defended by maybe not if we're talking about it now, right? This was largely defended by recently enlisted United States colored troops.
Hey.
Despite having inferior weaponry, they fought bravely and repulsed the Confederates with help from gunboats, although at a heavy cost.
Fantastic.
The defenders lost 652 to the Confederates 185.
Damn.
The loss at Milliken's Bend left the Confederates with no hope for relief other than from the cautious Johnston. We have our trenches pulled up so close to the enemy that we can throw hand grenades over into their forts. Wow. The enemy do not dare show their heads above the parapet at any time. So close and so watchful are our sharpshooters. Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
The town is completely invested. My position is so strong that I feel myself abundantly able to leave it and go out 20 or 30 miles with force enough to whip 2 such garrisons.
Wow.
He said, this is Ulysses S. Grant writing to George Pride on June 15th, 1863. He says, I think we got this so strong that I might take some troops and go take over a couple more towns real quick.
Right. Come on back.
Come back, see what's going on.
Well, Grant, right into George G. Pride. Oh, that's what happened there. Right. Anyhow, Pemberton was boxed in with plentiful munitions but little food. The poor diet was telling on the Confederate soldiers as well.
These poor guys didn't eat good at all.
By the end of June, half were sick or hospitalized. Scurvy, malaria, dysentery, dysentery, diarrhea, and other diseases.
You don't want diarrhea, man, because they probably don't have fresh water either.
Yeah.
You're going to get some
infection and fever and then die. Yeah. At least one city resident had to stay up at night to keep starving soldiers out of his vegetable garden.
Why? Give it to them.
Right. Being a douchebag.
Well, I don't know. It depends on if these people in Vicksburg even want these guys here.
Right. The constant shelling did not bother him as much as the loss of his food. As the siege wore on, fewer and fewer horses, mules, and dogs were seen wandering about Vicksburg. Shoe leather became a last resort of sustenance for many adults.
Gross. They probably boiled it, and imagine that smell. That's gross, dude. Dang. Imagine being one of these guys, citizen, just living, and all you're hearing is just, I guess it's no different than living in the Gaza Strip or something. Right. During the siege, Union gunboats lobbied over 22,000 shells into the town, and Army artillery fire was even heavier.
Dang. As
the barrages continued, suitable housing in Vicksburg was reduced to a minimum.
Wow.
A ridge located between the main town and the rebel defense line provided lodging for the duration. Over 500 caves, known locally as bomb-proofs, were dug into the yellow clay hills of Vicksburg. Whether houses were structurally sound or not, it was deemed safer to occupy these dugouts, clearly. People did their best to make them comfortable, though, with rugs, furniture, and pitchers. They tried to time their movements and forage in with the rhythm of the cannonade, sometimes unsuccessfully, though.
Right.
Because of the city's citizens burrowing, the Union soldiers gave the town the nickname of Prairie Dog Village. They're like popping their heads out.
Oh, my.
Despite the ferocity of the Union fire, fewer than a dozen civilians are known to have been killed during the siege, though.
Of course. I mean, it's inevitable. What are you going to do? One of Grant's actions during the siege was to settle a lingering rivalry. May 30th, General McClernand wrote a self-adulatory note to his troops, claiming much of the credit for the soon-to-be victory.
Oh, jeez.
Grant had been waiting 6 months for him to slip.
He said, you did it now.
Ever since they clashed early on in the campaign, They did that around at the Battle of Arkansas Post. You guys remember that?
Way back when.
He had received permission to relieve McClernand in January of 1863, but waited for an unequivocal provocation.
He's like, all right, he didn't do nothing too much yet, but as soon as he slips up, I'm canning that ass.
You're on thin ice, buddy.
Oh, he didn't even let him know. He just wanted his arrogance to get the best of him. Huh?
McClernand was relieved on his duties June 18th.
Oh,
didn't even get to see it through.
He did not.
Grant so carefully prepared his action that McClernand was left without recourse.
What soldier stooged off the note to Grant, first of all?
Somebody.
The little stooges.
Somebody. McClernand's 8th Corps was turned over to Major General Edward Ord.
Who?
Who had recovered from an October 1862 wound sustained at Hatchie's Bridge. May 1864, McClernand would be given a command in a remote area of Texas.
They're like, we don't want to see you for the rest of the war.
Well, you go fight the Indians.
Right. Another command change occurred on June 22nd. In addition to Pemberton and Vicksburg, Grant had to be aware of Confederate forces in his rear, under the command of Joseph Johnston. He stationed one division in the vicinity of Big Black River Bridge and another reconnoitered as far as north as Mechanicsburg. Both acted as covering forces. By June 10th, the 9th Corps under Major General John Parke was transferred to Grant's command. He said, I'll take it. This corps became the nucleus of a special task force whose mission was to prevent Johnston, who was gathering his forces at Canton, from interfering with the siege.
All right.
Sherman was given command of this task force, and Brigadier General Frederick Steele replaced him at the 15th Corps. Johnson eventually began moving to relieve Pemberton and reached the Big Black River on July 1st, but he delayed a potentially difficult encounter with Sherman until it was too late for the Vicksburg garrison, and then fell back to Jackson. He said, can't do it. Sorry, Pemberton. Sherman will pursue Johnson and recapture Jackson on July 17th. I'm sure we'll get there. Throughout the siege, Union and Confederate forces kept busy in a supporting role on the Louisiana side of the Mississippi River. Lieutenant General Edmund Kirby Smith, commander of the Trans-Mississippi Department, received a telegraph from Pemberton on May 9th requesting that he moved against Grant's communication lines along the Mississippi River.
Okay.
Grant had established important supply depots at Milliken's Bend, Young's Point, and Lake Providence, all within Smith's jurisdiction, but Smith failed to recognize the importance of Pemberton's situation.
Fantastic.
It was not until June when Smith finally took action on Pemberton's request, directing Major General Richard Taylor to, quote-unquote, do something in support of the Vicksburg garrison. Taylor commanded the District of Western Louisiana and developed a three-pronged campaign against Grant's 3 supply depots. All 3 of Taylor's assaults were defeated at the Battle of Milliken's Bend, the Battle of Young's Point, and the Battle of Lake Providence.
Right. In response of the growing Confederate activity in the area, Grant decided to dispatch troops from the Vicksburg trenches across the river. The presence of Major General John Walker's Confederate division on the Louisiana side was one of a particular concern. Its presence could possibly aid any Confederate attempt to escape from Vicksburg. Therefore, Brigadier General Alfred E. Elliott's Mississippi Marine Brigade and Joseph A. Maurer's brigade from Sherman's Corps were ordered to the vicinity of Milliken's Bend. Maurer and Elliott were to cooperate against Walker's division, which was stationed in the vicinity of Richmond, Louisiana, that is.
There's so many Richmonds.
Richmond was also an important supply line, providing Vicksburg with food from Louisiana. Also on the 15th of June, Elliott and Maurer defeated Walker and destroyed Richmond.
Elliott's men returned to DeSoto Point and constructed an artillery battery targeting an iron foundry, recasting spent Union artillery shells.
Right.
Construction was begun on June 19th, which placed a 20-pounder Parrott rifle in a casemate of railroad iron. The targeted foundry was destroyed on June 25th, and the next day a second Parrott gun was added to the battery, which continued to harass the defenders until the garrison surrendered. Additional Confederate activity in Louisiana occurred on June 29th at Goodrich's Landing when they attacked a plantation and an army training center run by former slaves. Confederates destroyed the plantations and captured over 100 former slaves before disengaging in the face of Elliott's Marines.
They captured 100 former slaves, and now they're slaves again.
Right. Confederate raids such as these were disruptive and caused damage, but they were only minor setbacks and demonstrated that the Confederates could cause only momentary disturbances in the area. Like, they might.
Right.
It's like that one dude that kept harassing. Who the hell was it? Remember, he would go from town to town. It was just a couple episodes ago.
Right.
It was like the Big Black River.
Right.
Stuff, that guy.
Late in the siege, Union troops
Yes.
Late in the siege, Union troops tunneled under the 3rd Louisiana Redan and packed the mine with 2,200 pounds of gunpowder. Oh, shit. They're going to blow a hole and get through the middle. The explosion blew apart the Confederate lines on the 25th of June, while an infantry attack made by troops from Logan's 16th, 17th Corps Division followed the blast. The 45th Illinois Regiment, known as the Lead Mine Regiment,
or
the
lead mine?
The Lead Mine Regiment, under Colonel Jasper Maltby.
Hey,
they charged into
I'll take a chocolate Maltby with extra Jasper.
They charged into the 40-foot diameter, 12-foot deep crater with ease, but they were stopped by recovering Confederate infantry.
Recovering Confederate alcoholics.
Right. They're like in the video games when everything's on woo and your health's got to get back up. You're like, oh shit.
Right.
The Union soldiers began pinned down, and defenders rolled artillery shells with short fuses into the pit with deadly results. No shit.
I bet. Jeez, the Union engineers worked to set up a casemate in the crater in order to extricate the infantry, and soon the soldiers fell back to a new defensive line. From the crater left by the explosion, Union miners worked to dig a new mine to the south. July 1st, this mine was detonated, but no infantry attack followed. Pioneers worked throughout July 2nd and 3rd to widen the initial crater to be large enough for an infantry column of 4 to pass through any future assault. However, events the following day negated the need for any further assaults because Vicksburg, Pemberton's like, dude, I'm done, dude.
Right. July 3rd, Pemberton sent a note to Grant regarding the possibility of negotiations for peace. Grant, as he had done at Fort Donelson, first demanded unconditional surrender.
He always does that. He knows it's not going to happen.
Right. He then reconsidered, not wanting to feed 30,000 Confederates in Union prison camps.
I don't blame him.
Right. And offered to parole all prisoners. Considering their destitute and starving state, he never expected them to fight again. He hoped they would carry home the stigma of defeat to the rest of the Confederacy, right? Send them home, everybody. Hey, man, we can't win this war. Grant's a madman.
Well, not only that, send them home, and now they're shamed and looked down upon by all the rest of the Southerners. But you guys let Vicksburg go? You suck.
All right. In any event, though, shipping that many prisoners north would have occupied his army and taken months.
He's like, I ain't dealing with this shit.
Pemberton officially surrendered.
He should have reinstated McClendon and had him do it.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Pemberton officially surrendered his army on the 4th of July. Mm-hmm. Independence Day for you, sons of bitches. Most of the men were paroled on July 6th, and they were exchanged and received back into the Confederate Army on August 4th, 1863.
Uh-oh.
All right, whatever. They did that at Mobile, Harper, Alabama. They were back in Chattanooga, Tennessee by September, and some fought in the battles of Chattanooga in November and against Sherman's invasion of Georgia in May 1864.
Not all of them.
Right.
We're going to just leave.
Right.
The Confederate government protested the validity of the paroles on technical grounds, and the issue was referred to Grant, who in April 1864 was general-in-chief of the army at this time.
Nice.
The dispute effectively ended all further prisoner exchanges during the war, except for hardship cases.
Right.
They're like, nope. From now on, we take prisoners. We're taking them with us.
Right, we have to.
When the captured 26th, 27th, 29th, and 31st Louisiana infantry regiments were exchanged in 1863 and 64, many of the paroled soldiers failed to report for duty and remained at their homes.
Right, screw that.
Those Louisianans who returned to active duty were never again used in combat, though.
Oh, wow.
Surrender was formalized by an old oak tree made historical by the event. In his personal memoirs, Grant described the fate of this luckless tree. He says, it was but a short time before the last vestige of its body, root and limb, had disappeared, the fragments taken as trophies. Since then, the same tree has furnished as many cords as wood in the shape of trophies as the true cross, whatever that is.
All right.
Is the tree still there?
I don't know. Probably not. Well, the surrender of Vicksburg was finalized on the 4th of July, Independence Day, a day Pemberton had hoped would bring more sympathetic terms from the United States. Although the Vicksburg campaign continued with some minor actions, the fortress city had fallen. And with the surrender of Port Hudson on the 9th of July, the Mississippi River was firmly in Union hands, and the Confederacy split in two.
Yep.
President Lincoln famously announced, the father of waters again goes unvexed to the sea.
Damn, why didn't he have a Vicksburg address?
Union casualties for the battle and siege of Vicksburg were 4,835. Confederates were 32,697. Well, they're all given away. Whom 29,495 had surrendered. The full campaign since March 29th claimed 10,142 Unions, 9,091 Confederate killed and wounded for the Unions and Southerns. In addition to men under his command, Pemberton turned over to Grant 172 cannons and 50,000 rifles.
Jeez, dude. Pemberton got to be done after this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vicksburg was the last major Confederate stronghold on the Mississippi, obviously. Therefore, capturing it completed the second part of the Northern Strategy, which was the Anaconda Plan.
Right.
The successful ending of the Vicksburg campaign significantly degraded the ability of the Confederacy to maintain its war effort.
Good.
This action, combined with the surrender of Port Hudson on July 9th, yielded command of the Mississippi River to the Union forces who would hold it for the rest of the war. Confederate surrender on July 4th is sometimes considered, when combined with Robert E. Lee's July 3rd defeat at Gettysburg, considered to be the turning point of the war. It cut off the states of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas from the rest of the Confederates, and effectively split the Confederacy in two for the duration.
It was over. From here on out, it was
I
over.
don't know how the hell they last another year and a half.
Ridiculous.
Well, they did have the whole East Coast, though. I mean,
the Union victory also permanently dissevered communication between the Trans-Mississippi Department, which is probably a good thing, and the balance of the Confederacy. Folk tradition holds that the 4th of July holiday was not celebrated by Vicksburg until World War II.
Yeah, I'm sure they were a little ashamed.
This claim is inaccurate, though, for large Independence Day celebrations were held as early as 1907.
I don't give a shit. They at least went 30, 40 years without doing it.
The works around Vicksburg are now maintained by the National Park Service as part of the Vicksburg National Military Park. The park, located in Vicksburg, Mississippi,
No shit.
and Delta, Louisiana, flanking the Mississippi,
So it's right there.
also commemorates the Greater Vicksburg Campaign, which led up to the battle and includes reconstructed forts and trenches. Oh, that's cool. The park includes 1,325 historic monuments. Oh, shit. And markers.
Damn.
20 miles of historic trenches and earthworks. Ooh, and a 16-mile tour road.
Damn.
A 12.5-mile walking trail. 2 antebellum homes. 144 in-place cannons. The restored gunboat of USS Cairo, which was sunk on the 12th of December 1862 on the Yazoo. Also the Grant's Canal site, where the Union Army attempted to build a canal to let their ships bypass Confederate artillery fire.
It failed.
American Battlefield Trust and its partners have acquired and preserved 47 acres of the Vicksburg battlefield through 2021.
Yep.
There's Vicksburg.
Vicksburg finally falls, and the Mississippi
I think this is
in
more
the Union hand
important
once again.
than Gettysburg, because Vicksburg took the whole Mississippi.
Yeah, but Gettysburg was bigger because finally Lee got friggin' defeated, dude.
Right. It's true. Man.
Finally.
Ever since old Stonewall got...
And after Gettysburg, I don't think Lee did too many more attacking. It was all of he was getting pursued pretty much.
Right.
All the way to what? The Blue Ridge Mountains or Smoky Mountains, wherever the hell it was.
Yeah, he was pretty much done, man.
Yeah, there he goes. Vicksburg is officially in the Union hands, but obviously you guys heard us talk about other battles that were going on because this clearly lasted from the 18th of May to July 4th. Right,
it's 2 freaking months.
Next episode, we shall cover those battles, even though you already know the outcomes of them, but they're worth doing. Plus, we got a couple that we didn't.
They're A's.
We got a couple in Louisiana's Battle of Plains Store, Battle of Port Hudson, Milliken's Bend, Brandy Station, Lake Providence, Battle of Winchester, Battle of Aldie, Battle of Middleburg, Battle of LaForce Crossing. We got a bunch.
Bunch.
Battle of Hoover's Gap, Battle of Portland Harbor, Second Battle of Donaldsonville, Battle of Goodrich Landing, Battle of Hanover, Battle of Sporting Hill, Battle of Carlisle, Battle of Cabin Creek, before we get to Battle of Gettysburg. So we got a few. And then we got the Battle of Hunterstown and Battle of Fairfield going on during when they
most likely.
But yeah, we got a few more battles, but we'll still cover the ones that were in the siege of Vicksburg.
Oh my.
And that'll do it for us. Join us all new exclusively. We said screw the Patreon.com stuff. And nobody clearly wants to pay for podcasts. So go over to Rumble exclusively, only on Rumble though. They're all for free. All you gotta do is just click the little video,
Right.
but it'll be on Rumble exclusively. No YouTube, because screw YouTube. They're a bunch of pieces of crap.
Yep.
And from now on, you can see all of our stuff in video mode, and it'll be early than the actual podcast audio mode. Still be 2 days early, so you can get the videos before you get the podcast audio mode. So go over to rumble.com, look for Bang Dang Network, and you'll see all of our stuff there in the future. So other than that, yeah, we'll be back for 3, 4, 5 maybe battles, because not too long of battles. How many times can I say battles in a sentence? But we're going to battle it out. But also go check out Outlaws and... Go check out Outlaws and Gunslingers and This Week in Sports History. And we'll be back next week for more battles of the American Civil War, as the Confederates are... They're not too proud of themselves right now. So we'll see you next week.
Left.
We are the Mother Music Anders with
Bang Dang.